Welcome to Big Bears Podcast, brought to you by Cash Converters. I'm Ollie Peterson, and this is the connection that we have between the community and your Perth Bears. So keep that feedback coming through, and we do have some questions in Bite Back on today's episode. I'm pleased to be joined by the General Manager of Football, the boss of the football department. If Mal Meninga is the big bear, is David Sharpe the little bear? G'day, Sharpie.
G'day, Ollie. I can't answer that one straight up because I think he's more like Yogi Bear, but anyway, and I'm the park ranger, but, you know, most people probably wouldn't even know who they are. But
well, yes, they would. Everyone knows who Yogi Bear is and the park ranger.
Well,
But
I hope so.
The Mal Meninga David Sharpe story, let's start there because you guys used to play footy together.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I played at his level at all, but we've certainly been together since back in the Raiders days when I went over there as a junior. I mean, as you know, Mal's a lot older than me. So, you know, I was only in the young blokes at the time. He was probably getting to retirement age. But, no, we formed a friendship from there and we built a local club in the Canberra Raiders competition and launched that. And we did play together at that stage. We had a game together and he scored his last try of his career off the great halfback that put him through the hole. And we got the oxygen straight out for him. But yeah, we then went on to coach the Raiders in the reserve grade under Mal, and then have an association going back there as a football manager for a few years. So. And last year, you know, we've been mates and done a lot of work for a long time. And then last year got the chance to go and be part of the Australian team with him. So we've been together a long time, a long relationship, and I'm due for a service medal shortly of some sort from the King, no doubt.
So good friendship, but good professional relationship, Sharpie. And is that what drew you to the Perth Bears? Because Mal signed up as the head coach? Yeah,
look, I don't want him to hear this, but absolutely, it's everything that Mal is what I believe in. It's integrity, it's family, all the values that, you get to bring to a start-up club. You go to a club that's established, they have their ways and their culture. We get to work with a group of young men and ladies and some great staff to build it our way and the way Perth would want it.
So it's a very exciting opportunity, obviously, for you, Sharpie, to develop the Perth Bears. So that's obviously what attracted you to this.
Yeah, look, there's no NRL team over here. And, you know, one of Mal's biggest goals in life is his legacy. Make sure there's a legacy. And of course, you'd sit back and think, well, he's probably left a legacy on the game. But, him and what I'm attracted to is in the later stage of my career is being able to put a team over here that gives, rural, regional kids something to look forward to, something to aspire to. And that doesn't mean as an elite player. That's something to follow and be a part of and participate in and have a dream of being around. So, not too many people get that in their life, that opportunity.
You dive straight in with this sort of an opportunity, Sharpe, and you've also had a lot of experiences outside of football, federal police, in terms of drug and alcohol within Australian sport. Tell us a bit about that and what you learned from being a chief executive officer.
Yeah, look, interesting. I've always been a big believer through my rugby league career because rugby league gave me everything, and to get to give it back is amazing. But always been a big believer in education and welfare. Players make mistakes, people make mistakes in life, but being able to help them through and teach them what to do next, I think is really important. So I've always been involved in education programs with the NRL through policing. And then when the government asked me to go and take over ASADA and build a new sport integrity agency, everyone thought it was going to be about policing a sport. And it is to that degree when you're looking at putting a ring around athletes and taking organised crime and that away from them, so they're not tempted. But the central focus of everything I've built at Sport Integrity Australia is around education and welfare, and working with sport to make it safe.
And to give those sports, I assume, as well, the confidence, because there's a bit of scepticism, isn't there, from the public when they hear about drugs in sport. You're not necessarily coming out as the cop on the beat, but it's just to one, reassure the athletes, two, to reassure the public the sport's clean.
That's right. And if you look at, back in the Essendon and Cronulla doping days, that was influences from outside, and I say it to this day, athletes go to training, they don't understand the science and chemistry and chemicals and substances, so they rely on the people around them to put them on the good programs and the safe programs and that. And whilst it's their responsibility to question that, it's really important that the people around them are the right people and leading them the right way.
And obviously bringing that level of experience, and a priority of yours being education and welfare, Sharpe, in a lot of the conversations we've had on the podcast so far, it's about building that culture. It's about building that club. And that's obviously part of the major foundations of the Perth Bears.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about creating a culture from the start rather than trying to change it later on when it goes a different direction. So we've got a very unique opportunity in rugby league and in sport, to be honest. And I've got to say, when I first thought about it, I thought, oh, Perth and AFL and everything could not have been received any better. And I think I've never seen greater opportunity for sport than the way I've been received in town and the way we're getting support.
And that support is also in the foundations of the football club and beyond even the Perth Bears, the West Australian collective about building rugby league, Sharpe.
It is, and it's about, for us, it's about sport. It's about the sport experience. And we're very big on just having people follow us or be a part of us, that you don't need to go on and be an elite rugby league player. Yeah, absolutely. Are we developing an elite team that's going to win? Yes, we are. And you look at the calibre of the signings. But as I said before, it's really important that people have something to look at and look forward to, whether they're a great rugby league player, great AFL player, or just love both sports or the basketball or whatever. You just want to give people that sport's the fabric of life, if you ask me.
Oh, it's so good,
Holds
isn't
us
it?
together.
Absolutely it does. And it gives all those young boys and girls an opportunity to do something, whatever they do. You just touched on the calibre of signings to date. Sharpe, are you happy with the roster you're starting to assemble?
Yeah, look, we sat down on the deck of one of the supporters or former Pirates guys who used his deck, and we created our first phase of our recruitment strategy. We got everything we wanted out of that, and we sat down more recently. We didn't use an office, we went back to his deck because it was successful, and we set our second phase while we were here for Harmony Cup.
Yep.
We're very happy, and we always knew that we needed to get a foundation, which we did with some great young players. Second phase for us was almost looking at seeing with some of the movements what else happens with rosters. We've seen the Payne Haas effect more recently. Mm-hmm. You know that people have either, if he stays at the Broncos, that players are going to have to fall out. If he goes to South, players are going to fall out, and that sort of movement happens right throughout. And so we had a really clear strategy that the second phase was looking at that while we build other positions, key positions.
So you had a target going back to late last year of about 10 signatures by Christmas. I think you fell a couple of signatures publicly short of that, Sharpe.
Publicly, beautiful wording. Thank you.
But you probably privately knew you had the 10 in the bag. So you're sitting, as we talk today, about 13, 14 of the squad?
We're at 17.
Right, 17. So you've got to get to 30. 30 is the magic number.
Again, just because it wasn't in public didn't mean we had, didn't have signings. The one thing we have done very, very well, and it's been, fed back to us, is the confidentiality of the negotiation process. We've kept it very tight, and there are some players we've signed that haven't been named publicly because it's pre-season and they want to focus on their football, not on the media. And we'll do it our way. We're not going to just jump and announce because we have to, because we don't. We're going to work with the players and what best meets their needs.
You have to work within the constraints of the salary cap. So that approach, some have described it at some stages as a Moneyball type scenario. Sharpe, is that a fair assessment?
Oh, I mean, you can assess it any way and put any label you want on it. We call it the Bears way.
And the Bears way is about culture. It's about people.
Absolutely. Culture, integrity, people, what's right for Perth and what respects the history of North Sydney Bears.
So it's not just going to be that, a certain player is available. If he doesn't fit the mould of what a Bear is, thank you very much, but we're not interested.
There are a lot of players on the market that we weren't interested in.
And there are a lot of managers, I assuming, making lots of calls to you, Sharpe, trying to shop their players around. There's a lot of interest in playing for the Perth Bears.
There is a lot of interest, particularly after earlier this year we had Curran, Meaney, Wishart all launched. It's certainly on the back of the other signings we had, it generated a lot of interest in Perth, and we're still getting a lot of interest in Perth. It's a great game. Rugby league's a great game, and there's some great people out there. We'd love to fit them all into the salary cap. But as you say, we're just working on what's available and what fits Perth.
Mal and Ian Millward, who've obviously been part of previous episodes of the Big Bears podcast, have indicated just how good the lifestyle is here in Perth. And I know that. You know that now as a new West Australian yourself, Sharpe. It sells itself, doesn't it, Perth?
Oh, look, the two grumpy grandpas, you've had them on the podcast before me, so it's good to see you got some youth out now. But it does. I mean, Perth doesn't need selling. Perth is just a wonderful place. And, a lot of them have talked about, Tyron come over, got off the plane in his board shorts to go surfing with the great Russell Ord, a former Reds player and surfer and Red Bull documentary maker,
Yeah.
He was off surfing before we even got near him, and then down to Gage Roads to taste the local beers and see how that was. Perth sells itself.
Yeah.
Perth is a great place. And players have also mentioned it's a great place to bring their families. Nick Meaney's going to bring a young family over. It's exciting.
Opportunities there. So you're not just creating the space for the footballer, you're creating the space for the footballer and their family.
It's every conversation we've had with players that have come over here has been about family and community. We know they can play footy. We don't need to talk about that. We've focused on family, Perth and community.
Well, what we've been inviting in Big Bears podcast here, thanks to Cash Converters, is your feedback. Bite back, we call it this section. And a couple of questions we have here for David Sharpe. Jason Burton submitted this one via Facebook, asking if there'll be an elite junior team. Will we have a Harold Matts team, maybe an SG Ball, Jersey Flegg age groups, or will the WA juniors still need to go east to play?
No, well, our goal is certainly to ensure that those players don't go east in future, and that the players that have gone east, we've already started bringing some of them back. It takes time. We've looked across the local competition. It's great. NRLWA need a massive rap for what they've done in this community, being so far away from the game. They've done a great job. Our goal is aim for 3 to 5 years to have that junior under 19s team in the competition and then work on the 17s. But we've got a bit of work to do with NRLWA and the WA teams to uplift those standards and skills.
Well, similar question from Matt then. If players in the NRL squad are not representing the Bears in first grade in the 19 selected for the weekend, will those other 11 players be in the Perth competition, or will they be part of the feeder clubs back in the eastern states?
Yeah, look, I know there's been a little bit of confusion around whether they'd play here or not. At the moment, they would play with with North Sydney Bears or East Tigers, or as you know, some are playing over at overseas at the moment. That wouldn't happen then, but at the moment, they would play with those two affiliate clubs, partner clubs. Our goal, though, is to look at uplifting the local competition by players that are on the fringe going there now. But then when you look at that top squad, not just yet, we've got a bit of work first, but certainly the goal is that we will be, between North Sydney Bears and here, we will uplift here so that the players can go back to the local comp.
So eventually you would like to have a scenario here for the Perth Bears that if you're playing reserve grade, you're playing in the Perth competition. And if you're a young footballer coming through the ranks, there's Harold Matts, there is SG Ball, there is Jersey Flegg. There's a pathway there you're hoping within about 5 to 10 years locally.
Well, we'd like to go quicker. I mean, I know Melbourne were 20 years before they went out more recently.
Yeah.
We'd really like to start with that 19s around the 3 to 5 year mark. But we'd like to really be looking at 5 to 7 being our goal to have it set up here fully. I mean, that doesn't mean we're not still, have that strong relationship and partnership with North Sydney Bears. They play a crucial part of who we are and what we do. So you've got the two, but we certainly want to, our goal is to build the football, rugby league in Perth.
David Sharpe, good to have you on Big Bears podcast. Any other message you've got for the supporters or for Big Mal himself?
Oh, no, I find it a bit hard to believe that Mal would call the podcast after himself, the Big Bear. But anyway, look, I'll be back on here next time with my charity medal for the whole time I've had to put up with him. So I look forward to it.
Good on you. David Sharpe, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ollie.
This has been Big Bears podcast for Cash Converters. We'll catch you next time.